Hey ladies, welcome to Chrissy B. My name's Christine. Today I'm going to be talking about balding and thinning locks. Wow, that's a big question. How did I create TOLR? At that time I didn't even know. I didn't have a name. All I knew is just the type of person I am. I'm very innovative. So I have a problem and I try and find a solution. So it goes way back to when I started doing weaves and always trying to make them look more realistic and more natural looking. And then over time, as time goes on, people's hair would be getting finer and thinner. And what I found was they didn't necessarily want the length. What they wanted was their hair back. So if you had thinning on the top, the weave, I wouldn't necessarily cover the whole head. I'll get a good match and then use netting and plaits and literally blanket stitch the hair onto the netting that's attached to the hair. Sounds complicated, but it's not really. So when I did my first TOLR customer, it came out of a need like most of the things that I do. And I got a call from one of my consultants, friends now, because she used to be my consultant. And she knew that I was working on actually trying to help people with thinning locks. I may have shared something with her, and one of her clients was suffering with this problem. And she got in touch with me. Let's call her Bernice. So Bernice came and I looked at her hair. And, you know, she was an older lady, but it really made her appear much older. I can see a lot of her scalp coming through. And my mind started to just tick, 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 tick in ways of, well, how can I get her locks back? And so I took down some measurements of exactly where the thinning was, and a colour sample, because my background with weave, the best weaves are those where you can match clients' existing hair, texture, colour, to the hair you're going to put on. And once you've got that correct, then it's simple for me, maybe not for others, but you get a very natural looking weave or extension or a piece back to what was missing, as long as the match is perfect. So with that in mind, I remember with Bernice, I took time and I looked at her existing locks, and I wrote down the colour. I think maybe she had like colour 4 on the ends, which is a lighter chestnut brown, and more 1B darker root at the roots, and she had a little bit of greying coming through too. And yeah, I sent her away. I counted roughly how much locks I felt she probably would need, and took down the measurement of the lock as well. And seeing the shortness of her own hair, I knew I had to do something so it literally bobbed the hair. So it actually created a nice natural gradiated look that complemented the whole. Even if she didn't have that before, that was my idea. So she's gone, and she did have actually a few locks she'd kept, probably about 20 or 30, not many, of the ones that had fallen out and she hadn't lost them. She just put them away somewhere and kept them and just walked with them. And I started to think of how I can get these locks back. I knew I would have to create, and in those days you couldn't order the locks online like you can now. So I actually handmade the locks too. And even in those days, it was quite innovative. So I'll leave you, okay, I'll share a little secret with you. So how I made mine, I plaited them very fine, and then I wrapped some yucky, kinky hair around it. Then I got the, you know, you can get the tools now. I don't know whether I had it at the time, but I remember using like a crochet needle and just jagging the hair that was wrapped into the plait to create a look that looked a bit like Sister Locs, because the lady did have Sister Locs. And look, it worked. It worked, and I was really excited. And so I matched those, the fake ones, to her existing ones that had dropped out. And I made, probably about 100 of them. 150 maybe. And so there they were. And the idea now was how to get these, to get her on her head. So I won't share everything, but I'll share enough to let you know that a netting piece was key, was what I needed to actually sew the lock onto it, because at the end of the day, that's what I was using for weave. So yeah, I painstakingly started to sew each lock onto the netting piece. Now I didn't use ordinary thread, I used weaving thread because it's tough. And I know once you've sewn well that down, it's not going to blow off, or you're not going to lose them, and they're not going to drop off. It took me a little while. And as I sewed them on, obviously the netting shrunk whilst I was sewing them, and I'm thinking, okay, I can't keep the shape. That's fine. I kept going until I got all the locks, including some of her own, well, all of her own, onto the piece. Great. I even to this day remember the extra netting that I had to sew around the circumference once it was done, just hanging there. But wow, it looked really good. The day that she came for me to install it, I'd never forget that day. It was exciting. I was excited for her. I was excited what I'd made. And yeah, I couldn't wait to see what it was going to look like myself, to be honest with you. So she came and she was excited. She'd seen her piece, her lock piece, on a polystyrene head that I had at the time. And she couldn't believe how I had made some fake baby hairs on the front as well. And she sat there. So first things first, I retightened her own hair, because of course, I think it took me about a month to create in all, everything. And her hair needed retightening. So I'm ready to put on a TOLR piece. I remember she was sitting there, I'd finished doing her retightenings, and I turned around to actually put on the piece. And she asked me a question. And she said, Christine, how's that actually going to fit on my head? And I turned and looked at her and I said, aha! And then she turned around with a smile, and I caught her smile in the mirror. And then my hand went to my teeth and I went, I didn't have a clue myself at that point. And, but I had a vague idea, but it hadn't quite come together. I knew I had to do it. She was there, the TOLR's there, we've got to connect it. She's come to get that hair on her head, her locks on her head. Ping. The idea came to me. Christine, sew it on, as you would a weave. great. But then what's going to happen to her locks underneath? Another idea. Make some holes and pull her hair through. Okay, and then what's going to happen with the netting? It's just netting. Just cut it off where you don't need. She's not going to see the hair on the top, the locks on the top of the TOLR to cover not only the holes where I pull her own hair through, but anything underneath. Great. So there I was, she's sitting there, and I'm making these holes. I'm pulling her hair through, and then I'm cutting off the excess netting. I begin to literally blanket stitch the piece onto her. Oh, she says, okay, that's clever. And I must admit, I pat myself on the back and says, yeah, it kind of was. Inspirational, left at lastminute.com. But, you know, when you have a passion about something, when you want to do something, the ideas come. The ideas do come, especially like somebody like myself, very innovative in that way. Question, problem, my mind starts to think, how can I fix it? How can I do something? How can I achieve an outcome that's going to not just be good, but be almost foolproof? And I got it with the TOLR. I got it with the TOLR. Of course, she loved the look. Once it was on, it was a question of now trimming it and customizing it to her existing. I gave her, I remember, a small bob type pudding bowl style. She could take the locks. She liked it high in the front, to the side, either side. And she was just ecstatic. And yeah, that was my first experience of creating TOLR, almost not by accident, I would say by destiny. Destiny given to me by the Creator himself. And I am a creative, like there are many creative people out there, and I am one. And it doesn't end there. I have so many ideas to build on TOLR, which is to come. But it's all about TOLR, it's all about covering balding, it's all about covering thinning. These are real problems out there. People don't have to live with this. Something can be done. Something will be done. If they get in touch with me, I know I will please them. Thank you so much for watching. If you're experiencing balding or thinning locks, please book your free consultation below. Bye for now.